Welcome to the first grade curriculum night. It's so good to see you. I'm glad you come to find out a little bit more information about what we'll be doing this year. So, to introduce myself, I am Mrs. Nummela. This will be my 13th or 15th year, of teaching, and my 6th year here at CCLS. I have taught first grade, kindergarten, and third grade as my past experience. I am a member here at Webster Gardens Lutheran Church, so you might see me and my family there. We usually attend the late service, and I'm involved with Vacation Bible School and some other things as well. My husband, Tim, is in the picture here with me. We have been married 9 years, and he owns a woodworking shop, Rustic Grain, that's now located in South City. We have 2 children. My son, Tommy, is 4 years old, and he is in the 4-year-old preschool room here at Webster, so the kids see him around occasionally. And then my daughter, Abby, will be 1 in November this year, and she attends school at CCLS over at the Kirkwood campus. We also have 1 dog. Her name is Callie. So that's a little bit more about Mrs. Nummela. Now, the other first grade teacher that your kids will get to know this year is Mrs. Fisk. This is her 19th year of teaching, her 5th year here at CCLS. Mrs. Fisk and I actually taught together at a previous school before coming here to CCLS, so it's exciting to be working together with her. She has taught first grade for many years, but also spent a lot of time in preschool in the 3s, 4s, and 5s there, as well as being the early childhood director for a while. She and her husband, Mr. Fisk, attend Webster Gardens as well. And Mr. Fisk is a science teacher over at Lutheran South. And they have 2 gerbils, Gibbs and Mars, who actually stay at school most of the time. So if your kids ever talk about a class pet in Mrs. Fisk's room, that's who they're discussing. Now, in addition to Mrs. Fisk and myself, there are 3 other very important ladies that we want you to get to know. Mrs. Dreesen is one of our classroom assistants. She is here on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday mornings here in our classroom. And then there is Miss Lisa Wagner, but she goes by Miss Lisa, who's here in our classroom on Mondays and Fridays. And then Mrs. Liebnow, who is here every day in the mornings over in Mrs. Fisk's class. Now, these lovely ladies stay in the room from the beginning of the day until about 1 o'clock. They will be leading small group activities in our classrooms, pulling students for one-on-one practice with things or makeup work if they need some extra review or help. Then they also will be watching the kiddos out on the playground, as well as helping to supervise in the lunchroom and taking groups down to the bathroom and some of those day-to-day kind of things. So if you hear your kids talking about any of these other teachers, they are part of our first grade team. Now, diving into a little bit of our curriculum for religion, we do religion every day here at CCLS in first grade. We do devotions every afternoon using our school-wide character formation project, where we focus on our different character traits, things like integrity and diligence and respect and courage, as we dive into these different Bible stories. In the charger, there is usually a little blurb about our character formation project for the week because it is school-wide, and you can also see on the CCLS website the little podcast about the upcoming week's character formation project lesson that you could be discussing with your kids. Now, in addition to the character formation project, in first grade, we also use the CPH One in Christ curriculum. And in first grade, what this curriculum does is it gives us a really good overview of the Bible and biblical stories. We start the year with creation, work our way through a lot of Old Testament stories until we hit Christmas time, where we talk about the coming of Jesus. And then we spend second semester talking about the life and ministry of Jesus, the miracles he performed, until we hit Easter time, where we talk about his death and resurrection. And then we spend the rest of the year discussing what happened to his disciples after Jesus ascended into heaven, and then the ministry of Paul. This year, first grade does have memory work every week. Your kids have already done a great job of that this first week of school, where the newsletter has the verse for the following week. We practice it here at school, but we'd like you to practice it at home. And then they say that on Thursday mornings, and we'll record that on Seesaw for you guys to have a chance to see. In class, we'll often either sing a little song or make some actions to go along with it, just to help us in that memorization process. Do not feel like your child has to sing the song or do the actions. It's just a way that we try to help them remember that here. In addition to our religion time here in the classroom, we will also take part In our school-wide chapel services every Wednesday morning. We will go down with the rest of the kindergarten through fourth grade and spend some time praising and worshiping God. At the end of the year in May, we will be leading chapel. And so as that gets closer, we'll let you know the specific date and time so that you can come and be a part of that. But know that you're also welcome to join any Wednesday if you'd like to join our CCLS chapel. In first grade, we do track your church and Sunday school attendance. That's something we actually do school-wide here at CCLS, where we're just checking in with your kid to see if your family is going to worship together. In addition to that, every quarter we do ask that first grade families take part in a service project. I gave you information about that when you came to visit the classroom, just a list of some ideas of things that your family could be doing. And each quarter we send home a little form asking you to fill that out to tell us about your service project. If your child does a service project, we also love to see a picture that we could post here in the classroom after they've shared, just to recognize what they've been doing to help others in their community. Now into our phonics and grammar. First grade is a very important time in your child's growth and development as they learn to become a reader and a writer. In first grade, we use lots of different curriculums to help us out with this. Our main phonics curriculum is called Fontes and Pinnell. It goes along with the reading benchmarks that we'll talk about here in a little bit. And we go through the year doing some of the different activities, looking at word families and different spelling patterns. But in addition to being able to, identify letters and the sound that goes with them and how we spell those, we also work in first grade a lot with what's called phonemic awareness. Can your child hear different parts of phonics? Can they hear rhyming words? Can they hear the segmentation and breaking down of a word? Can they then blend sounds together to make words? And for that portion, we use what's called Hegarty, and that's the curriculum for phonemic awareness. So those two, hand in hand, we'll be using all year long. We'll start the year just kind of doing a quick review of all the letter sounds, consonants versus vowels, and then we'll start diving in. We'll talk about our short vowel sounds, then we'll dive into our long vowel sounds and sneaky E. We'll get into blends, we'll get into digraphs. By the end of the year, we'll start talking about vowel teams, and then we'll start getting into some of those tricky ones, all the different ways that you can make the C sound, or the K sound with C or K or CK. We'll talk about some of the, like the crybaby rule with the Y making the I or the long E sound at the end of words. And so in our phonics time, we tie those in kind of with our spelling rules that we use. Now, with our phonics practice as part of our reading center time, we will be doing a center most days called word work, where your child will be using different manipulatives to help them practice these words, word families. We'll be able to play some games. You see here a couple different activities shown where we're doing stamps or little word ladders, but we'll also get your kids working together to play some little games with words and to help make that phonics instruction kind of come to life as they practice it together. For spelling, our spelling kind of goes hand in hand along with our phonics. Once we've introduced a phonics concept like, say, the digraph CH, the following week we'll usually have that as our spelling rule as we practice that here in class. By the end of first quarter, we will be starting spelling, mid-September, we'll get going on that. So we have a few tests before the end of first quarter. On Mondays, we take a pre-test together. Then that list gets sent home in your child's homework folder on Mondays. You'll have those words to practice all week long. And Thursday night, the homework will be to practice those spelling words. It'll be a little activity to go over that. And then our test will be on Friday, the last day of the week for school that week. Now, at the beginning of the year, everybody has the same spelling words. We'll all have, words that have the short A the first week, and then another one of the short vowels the second week. As we kind of get in the routine of taking spelling tests, we'll start off with just a few words and we'll get more as the year goes on. But by January, we've kind of figured out how the routine of spelling goes. And so we switch to what's called differentiated spelling, where on Monday, we'll take a pre-test of words that follow our spelling rule for the week. If your child misses any of those words, they will go on to their spelling study list that they'll practice throughout the week. But if they got some words right, they won't have to practice those specific ones. Instead, we'll pull in words that they've missed in their daily writing that they can be using instead. Hold on just a second. Sorry about that. My lights turned off in here. They're on an automatic switch. So with our spelling, with that differentiated spelling, it'll start up in January. And at that time, we will also start doing dictation sentences where we'll take words from the pre-test and we'll put them into some sentences with some high frequency words that your child should be able to recognize and spell, or previous words that follow previous spelling rules. And that dictation sentence will be graded not only on can they spell the words correctly in a sentence, but are they using correct capitalization and punctuation, correct spacing, as well as handwriting, using capital and lowercase letters in the right places. So starting to apply that spelling into written dictation sentences. Now, to practice spelling here in the classroom, we will make it one of our center rotations. We have a lot of different hands-on activities that your kids can be doing to practice, stamps and Play-Doh. We'll have different little games that they can do as they practice spelling those with friends. We also use an app called Vocabulary A to Z. It is through the Reading A to Z kind of umbrella, and information will be sent home to you about that as well. It's something that you could log in at home and your kids could play games on that app or on that website to practice their spelling words for the week. And then as we take the tests on Fridays, when we get into those into those differentiated spelling lists, they will start being able to use that Vocabulary A to Z to take those tests. So that's a little bit about spelling. For our writing in first grade, we still focus a lot on handwriting in first grade. We use a program called Handwriting Without Tears, where we go through and review how we do all our capital letters and then move into our lowercase letters, talking about correct pencil grip as well as formation of each of those. In addition to handwriting, though, we're starting to become writers in first grade. A couple times a week, your child will be doing a writing center where they're writing in their journal, answering a journal prompt, and then we also have our writer's workshop time. At the beginning of the year here, we will be interviewing each child in class and doing some writing about them to make a class book. At the beginning of the year here, we only expect like a sentence or two about each kid. But as we move into the year, we start to work on writing a little bit more about friends. And then hopefully in second semester, we're able to then move from writing about each other in these interviews into writing our own stories. We will do both personal narrative stories as well as a nonfiction writing piece where when we do our social studies unit on change makers, we'll write about a famous person in history. And so we'll be able to use some of those Lucy Calkins units of study for writing that we will do during Writer's Workshop time, and hopefully have some fun stories to bring home at the end of first grade. For our reading time, for our whole group reading, we use a curriculum called Being a Reader and Making Meaning that are both by the Center for the Collaborative Classroom. In these, we read both big books and other books together, maybe known text to the kids that we can dive in and talk about some of those different reading comprehension strategies. And then in the Making Meaning books, we're also working on building vocabulary, where each week they'll make a set of little vocab cards over the 4 words that we're working with that week to expand their vocabulary. Each week, we will also have poems that we look at and add into a poetry songbook that we'll collect throughout the year. And then we have an author of the month where we will focus on different books by that author and get to do some fun activities with those as well. Now, during our reading block, we also do what we call reading centers. Mrs. Fisk and I have both been trained in the Daily 5 reading kind of setup, and we use that framework here in the classroom, where when they are meeting with us, we're working with kids on doing what they call the Daily 5 Cafe, where they're working on their comprehension, their accuracy, their fluency, and then expanding their vocabulary. To do this, they are meeting in small leveled groups with us. Here at the beginning of the year, we are working our way through some little assessments with your kids, both phonemic awareness assessments as well as then benchmark assessments with the Fontes and Pinnell benchmarking system that we use at CCLS to find kind of their level. And then we will be putting them into small groups to read with us at where they're needing to be met. Now, while groups are reading with me in a small group, our other friends are working through some other centers to help them become better readers and writers. We do independent reading and partner reading. We do listening to reading. We do our word work activities, and then we do spelling practice practice, writing practice, and just have a lot of fun during that reading center time while also practicing those great reading and writing skills. Now, as we do the benchmarking, we will kind of figure out where your kid is at, and the little reading book bags that come home as homework on Wednesday nights will start to have a leveled reader in there that kind of meets your kid where they're at, both for decoding, sounding out the words accurately, but then also for comprehension. As they grow as readers, we want to make sure those two things go hand in hand. Now, at that time, once we've figured out where kids are reading at, we will have a few groups from first grade start meeting with our reading specialists here at CCLS. Mrs. Callison is one of those, and then Mrs. Liebnow, who helps in Mrs. Fisk's room in the morning, is our other reading specialist this year. And so if your child qualifies, we'll be reaching out to you in a few weeks here and letting you know that those ladies will start pulling them for a little extra support and intervention here in the classroom. Now, with our reading time, we do also use some apps that you might be able to access at home. We use the Reading A to Z Kids to do some books online, and then those are the little leveled books that get printed and sent home in the book bags. You'll see some of those coming through. Then we also use an app called Epic, where your kids are able to access some different stories to read as well as some books to listen to. And then we use Khan Academy Kids quite a bit for some of our different phonics practice and some great books on there as well. Now, looking into our good fit books. When we talk to kids about finding books that are good for them, I'm not going to limit them on our shelves here in the classroom. You know, if they want to read a Curious George book, they can, or if they want to read one of our Who Would Win animal books, that's fine, no matter what reading level they're at. But when they come to read with me, or you're maybe choosing books with them at home, we want to find a book that is a good fit. Now, as we do that benchmarking, it's able to kind of help us in that direction. And throughout first grade, we're going to keep doing benchmarks to check in with them to see kind of their progress and how they're growing. At the beginning of first grade, friends are reading usually more between this level A to level E, where, you know, some kids are still doing very picture heavy, a lot of repetition on the books. Some have kind of moved into where they're starting to crack the reading code a little, being able to decode little CVC words and starting to, you know, still use the pictures, but start to move towards more of the words. By the end of first grade, we're wanting them to be more of what we call like this level I, where there's a lot more words per page. You have to do more of the decoding and understanding what you're reading besides just relying on the pictures. Now, every kid is different. You know, some kids come into first grade still working on letter sounds, while others are already ready for chapter books. And that's one of the great things about being able to differentiate and do small groups. We're able to meet your kids where they're at. After we've found those different levels, we will share that with you at parent-teacher conferences in October when you come in, kind of show you where your kid is at, and you'll also see in the book bags that coming home. But we don't tell the kids, we don't sit down with them and say, okay, you're reading at a level E, these are the only books that you can read, because we don't want to limit them that way. They have a free choice of books for their book box out of our classroom library, finding ones that interest them, ones that they can enjoy. But then I also give them some leveled readers and decodable readers that I know that they can be successful with, that they might be reading with a partner during center time too. And so finding that balance to help them grow as readers. If you ever have more questions about the leveling we use, or what good fit books might be for your kids, please definitely reach out and we can help you kind of walk through that together. Now, I will be sending home in the book bag this week 2 helpful bookmarks that you can use as you're reading with your child. My hope is that you are reading 20 minutes a night with your kiddos, either the books that I'm sending in the book bag, books they've checked out from the library, other books you have at home. It doesn't really matter what books they are, whether you're reading to them or they're reading to you. We just want to make sure that you guys are being intentional about reading together every night, because research has showed that's how they grow as readers. The first one is this: when a child gets stuck on a word. Sometimes it can be really easy as a parent just to tell them what that word is as you're reading together. But here are some suggestions of what you can do to help them start to advocate for themselves or try to problem solve without just relying on somebody else to tell them the word each time. You can wait a few seconds, then help by saying, you know, give it a try. Ask them, what would make sense in this story? Encourage them to look at the picture. Maybe help them read to the end of the sentence, then come back and think about what would make sense at the start. You can ask them to read the whole sentence over. Ask, are there any parts inside the word? This one is a great one, saying, hey, do you see any little words in there? If you've come across a large one, what could you break it down into? And then once they've said it, instead of saying, no, that's wrong, ask them, did that make sense in the sentence? Did that start with the same letter you just said or you see there? Or, does that word look right compared to what you said? Try to help them match that up. And then no matter what, just be encouraging. Praise the things they are doing right. I liked the way that you looked ahead and came back, or you checked out the picture to help support you. Then here in the classroom, some of the little strategies we will be using is these little animals to kind of help us as we talk about these different reading strategies. We have the eagle, using our eagle eyes to look at the picture, then look back at the words. The snake that likes to sound it out, saying each letter sound, then blending to make the word. We've got the chunky monkey who looks for small little parts and then blends those together to make the larger word. The fish lips who likes to make the first sound and see if we can get it from that beginning. The frog we don't use quite as often because that's skip ahead and then come back to reread. We want to try to give it one of these other options first. And then the dolphin, the flipper vowel, he likes to flip the vowel sound. So instead of saying the short vowel sound, maybe try the long vowel sound and ask, hey, does that make more sense there when you're trying those out? And then just the little reminders at the bottom, ask yourself, does it make sense? And then if not, try another strategy as you get stuck. So these will be sent home this week that you guys can keep handy as you are reading together this year. Then the other piece is we would also encourage you to be asking some comprehension questions of your kids as soon as you get done with the book. Or, if they went and read it on their own, when they come back with you, talk with them about the story a little. Ask them who the main characters were, what happened in the story, what was the problem, what was the solution. Here at the beginning of the year, we'll focus a lot on the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. Can you tell me what happened in order? Pick out some main details. If it's a nonfiction book, have them pick out like the key thing that the author was trying to tell you. And then you can go a little farther. You can start asking some of those connection books, or connection questions. Can you connect this with another book you've read? Can you connect this to something that's happened in your own life? And as the year goes on, we will send home some more resources for you with how to help with that comprehension piece at home too. Now, moving into math. We do math every afternoon here in first grade. Our curriculum is called Saxon Math. It is a spiral curriculum that continues to build on itself throughout the year. It does have a calendar piece. We have calendar binders that we use to help the kids get a little more engaged with that calendar time, where we're working with patterning, working with numbers, working with our number of the day and counting. We work with graphing every day. As the year goes on, we'll get into working with money each day, telling time each day, skip counting, all those different things. Now, with our math time, how we kind of set up our block is we have our calendar time every day. We do a little math warm-up game. That could be something like a number sense activity, an estimation activity, a little game we play where they're matching numbers and pictures, working on subitizing, lots of different little skills that we touch on briefly. Then we go to our new concept for the day, and that's from our Saxon curriculum that we use at the beginning of the year here. That will be a lot of review, just kind of touching base on things from kindergarten to see, but then we will dive into new concepts. And this year we hit on that addition and subtraction are the big ones we start introducing. Now, after we do our new concept and the activities with that, we will move into our math centers. And this is where we're able to start giving some differentiation, because we know that there's kids that come into first grade who are still working on, one-to-one counting and number recognition. Well, there's other kids who are already into adding and subtracting, maybe even farther. And so we try to meet them where they're at during that math center time. We have different math centers set up where we are doing some different hands-on activities, some games with friends, using like pattern blocks and graphing. And then we use a program called Marcy Cook's number tiles. And here we're starting the year with just subitizing, where you're matching dots to numbers. But as kids are ready for more challenge, we'll be able to pull some more challenging things out for them. And then as they finish work in those centers, they're working as teams, working with others, but also getting to practice some of those extra math skills that are in there. Now, math is an area where we will have homework, usually Tuesday nights. Here at the beginning of the year, it's also Thursday nights that's coming home. But our math curriculum has a lot of papers that will be coming through, and often the word homework is already pre-printed on the back. What we will do to let you know that it's not homework that night is either I or the kids will X out the back where it says homework to let you know, hey, that doesn't need to come back to school. If it is homework for the next day, we will have circled the word homework, and it should be in your child's homework folder. If you're ever not sure though and you want to check, feel free to shoot me an email or a message on Seesaw about that too. And most nights it'll be Tuesday night, and occasionally here at the beginning of the year, Thursday night, with that math homework that's coming through. Now, math is one of our letter grades in first grade, and so we do have a little assessment every 5 lessons that they'll be graded on, that we kind of just check, how are you doing with these concepts that we are covering this year. Here are some pictures showing some of those different math centers that we do and math warm-ups. This is the Marcy Cook number tiles that I was discussing. We have some graphing activities we do. We play a game for one of our warm-ups called Colored on the Hundreds chart. We have hundreds numbers where we're filling them in. As for apps, we use an app called Extra Math, where it kind of levels the kids on their fact fluency. If they're already whizzing through addition problems, they'll be able to test out of that quickly and move on to subtraction. If they're ready to move past that, it'll move them through it as well. We also use Khan Academy Kids, the math aspect there, to practice some different skills, as well as some other fun math games, and we'll do some seesaw activities in math this year too. For science, we use a curriculum called FOSS. It is a very hands-on, engineer-based science curriculum that we love doing. We'll start off the year with a unit on plants and animals, and then right before Christmas and into the new year, we will be doing a unit on light and sound, and then we will, in the springtime, do air and weather, our 3 real big units that span a couple months each that we cover through. We alternate in first grade between science and social studies units. With our science units, we will be doing our STEM journals, and we will be doing entries in those for our different science activities that we do. Now, in addition to that FOSS curriculum, we also do some extra things to build in here. This year, we are blessed at our elementary campus to have an educational technologist who's joined our staff, Mrs. Ofrian, and she will be coming in on Tuesday afternoons to lead us in some STEAM activities. We'll be using our Makerspace cart, some of the cool coding tools that we have here, and getting to dive into some of those technology pieces throughout the year too, which we're really excited to partner and work with her and get to dive in there. Also in first grade, we get to do a lot of really cool hands-on experiments. In the fall here, as we do plants and animals, we'll be growing a lot of plants and watching those. As we do our air and weather unit, we get to build and test parachutes and some other things. Now, in third quarter, we will also start doing what's called our Scientist of the Day. And we haven't been able to do this the last few years because of COVID. So we're very excited to bring this back this year, where your child will sign up for a day where they get to be the Scientist of the Day. And we'll send some materials home with them ahead of time, where you can pick out a little science experiment demonstration that they can do. Now, you are welcome to come in with them to help with that, or just send in the materials and I can help, and Mrs. Dreesen or Miss Lisa can help them as they lead that little science experiment for the rest of the class. So more information will come home about that in the new year. So that's a little bit about our science curriculum here. In social studies, we use a social emotional curriculum called Second Steps. That is in our morning class meeting time. We dive through that this year. And then our afternoon social studies units that kind of alternate with science, we use a curriculum called TCI. This year, our big one to start off the year here has been communities. Then we will talk a little bit about family traditions here in the fall. We'll also take a little chunk to study Martin Luther and the Reformation, because we are a Lutheran school. Then in the new year in second semester, we will study United States symbols. We'll do a big unit on change makers, people in history who have made an impact in the world. And then our last big social studies unit at the end of the year is on maps and how to read maps, how to make maps, where are places in the world based on the maps. And so that's kind of our social studies curriculum that we go through. Now, that's the big curriculum pieces that we work through each week. But our weekly homework that we're looking at Monday night is that Bible journal page that comes home for you to answer a little question and have your kids draw the picture to go along with. We collect those to make a little book for them that at the end of the year they get to take home with all their memory verses in there. Then that verse you should practice at home as well as us practicing it here at school, and it will be recited on Thursday mornings. Now, math homework, usually Tuesdays, and then we'll have some Thursdays until spelling starts. That it will be the backside probably of one of our math worksheets, or when we get into those, it'll be a little fact practice page, practicing our different math facts. On Wednesday nights, we send home that reading book bag for you to be practicing. Those should be returned the following Monday. And then also Wednesday nights, you might want to make sure to practice that Bible verse because it'll be recited the next morning. And then Thursday nights, right now it'll usually be a math page, but our spelling will pick up here in a few weeks. We'll start having a little spelling practice page, and you'll want to study those words for the test on Friday. Now, homework in first grade, if it doesn't come back the next day, we'll just have the kids make up here at school. That way you're not having to worry about it and carry it on. It is one of the things we look for responsibility on the report card of, hey, how are they doing at bringing that homework back the following day? Blackbaud is our new school management software system. You're hopefully familiar with that, as that's how you pay tuition and some of the things as we got our year started here. Blackbaud is where you are going to be able to access what we call our classroom bulletin board. Here's a little screenshot showing what it kind of looks like right now. You see the link there where you'll be able to find our newsletter each week posted. I will send the paper copy home too, but it's also there on the website for you to see. We also will have linked here on our classroom bulletin board that parent email directory. If you're needing to reach out to other parents in the class, for a birthday party or, a sports activity, or you just want to get in touch with them, that parent email directory is linked there under the links as well. And then this is also where you'll be able to go in and check your child's grades for math and spelling are the 2 letter grades in first grade that as we take tests and things like that, I will be entering their grades into this online grade book that you can check as we go through. Otherwise, the report cards will come home quarterly for you there. Now, with report cards, as I said, we send those home quarterly. One will come home in October, the week before conferences. Then we'll have one that comes home right after school resumes in January. Then we'll have one right after spring break that comes home for third quarter. And then your end of the year report card gets mailed beginning of June. You should receive that. Now we have set aside conference times in October 27th. That's a half day of school, so that afternoon, evening, and then Friday morning, we don't have school once again on Friday. And so Friday morning, there will be times that you can set up to meet with me then. But of course, if there's questions or concerns before that, I'll be reaching out, or you can reach out to me. I'd be happy to meet with you before then. We don't have other set aside ones like in the spring or anything, but if you ever are wanting to touch base with me, I am happy to set up a meeting before or after school, or even, during one of the longer breaks during the school day where we could sit down and talk about things. As I mentioned on our report cards, we have 2 letter grades in first grade on spelling and math. The others will be receiving kind of a rating scale on how your child is doing, or the ES or N. And you'll see more of that when those come out in October. But if you have questions or concerns, never hesitate to reach out. Field trips in first grade, we get to do some fun ones. This is our tentative plan for this year, that here in October, we'll be heading to Tower Grove Park for a little program on wild animals and things like that with our science unit. Then in November, we will go both to the St. Louis Symphony and to the Made Maker Space that is sponsored by the Magic House down on the Del Mar Loop, and both of those will tie into our science unit on sound. And then in May, we plan to go to the St. Louis County Library to hear a little presentation about their summer reading program and get to kind of explore the library to make sure your kid is set up with books as they move into the summer and on out of first grade. And then we also, our end of the year field trip is to Laumar Sculpture Park, where after we've talked about 3D shapes and math, we go and hunt for those in the different sculptures and then have kind of an end of the year picnic outside too. Now, as we get closer to all of those field trips, we will definitely let you know the exact day, and if there are options for parents to come along, we'll send out in the newsletter saying, hey, let us know if you'd like to join us and get you signed up for that. So those are the field trips we're looking forward to. That's kind of all I've got for today. Hopefully this helped give you a little bit more information about first grade and what your kiddos are learning this year. I've already really enjoyed getting to know your families as our year is kicked off here, but look forward to a wonderful year working together. If you have questions or concerns, please never hesitate to reach out. Here is my email address as well as Mrs. Fisk's, or you can also send me a message through Seesaw. Have a blessed rest of your evening or your day if you're watching this another time. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you very much.